What is going on, guys? Welcome to the biggest tier list I've ever tried to do. We have got every single icon. First of all, straight away, why is there only 98 primes but there's 100 mid and bases? If you let me know down below, I can't wrap my head around it. I can imagine we will find out in this when there is some primes missing, but I believe I've got everything from base, mid, prime, team of the year and World Cup. We're going to be looking at all of them and seeing where should they go on a tier list now? Because I've taken them away from the attackers, midfielders and defenders, as I feel like a lot of icons don't really change unless there's a new one added. For instance, the David Beckham, the Blanc, they are in a specific tier now, and they will be added as we go through the game once. But in terms of the attacker, midfielder, defenders, and goalkeepers, goalkeepers will keep the icons in because there's not enough goalkeepers to go around anyway. But the attackers, I want to focus on more of the actual players, and this is your holy grail for icons. So let's straight away start off with our man Baggio. We've got an 89, a 91, a 92, and a 93. All of them are okay versions of the card, to be honest. Nothing too crazy. I think the big difference between, obviously, a lot of these World Cups was a skill move or weak foot upgrade. Baggio, unfortunately, has none. I'm going to personally say, for right now, the base, in my opinion, is going into more of the C category. Very, very close into the fodder. And yes, this tier list will be mighty packed by the end of it. We might have to zoom out and then we'll zoom back in at the end. But for now, we'll keep it in there. With the 91 as well, I don't feel like there's much of an upgrade from the 89 to the 91. I'm going to put him in there. More than likely, we might drop some down into the fodder if we feel like they're not necessarily giving us what we actually want. Because I do think, realistically, if I was to think, if I basically opened a base, mid, prime, or World Cup Team of the Year pack right now, what would be my reaction? Would I be really happy with a base Barnes? That's what I'm kind of judging it off. And obviously, we know some of the players who are the S. There's just a guaranteed, even base to now is still an S tier, most definitely. If we look at the World Cup and the Prime, we're starting to get a little bit of something. I feel like the World Cup comes in with some nice kind of points, but I really just, again, don't see him being much more than a B personally. And I'd probably say the Prime is about the same as well. I feel like with these two, they are very, very similar. Personally, I would say the base and the mid are going to sit just under. If we then have a look at our man Ballack, again, a very nice card. Probably lost out a little bit in comparison to previous years. I felt like FIFA 19, he was creeping into, I'd say, definitely the A, but I would say now he's definitely dropped in that meta ability, especially the amount of people that did the SBCs. I thought it might have been FIFA 18 actually. The base right now, to be honest, I would personally say fodder. It's not quick enough. The stats are pretty nice throughout, but I just think for 75,000 coins, he's got to be fodder, realistically. And this is where the question of Baggio might come into it, to be honest. I feel like the mid, again, getting a little bit of a pace increase. A +6 is definitely nothing to scoff at. I would go, if I'm looking at him, 88 passing, 88 physical, still a 4-star, has the shooting, the ability for the shadow. I would probably say, I think I'd be in the middle, to be honest. I think it would be like a B, just under a B, but it'd be close. I do think the Prime is definitely still coming in at A. I feel like with the extra boost of more pace, more defending, again, we can still whack the shadow, and he has had that increase on the shooting. I think it's a very nice card to get. I would be happy with him in a Prime, most definitely compared to some that we have got in previous packs, unfortunately. We then have Baresi, who is an easy one, to be honest. Straight fodder. Straight fodder. Unfortunately, he's just not going to do it. We need a Team of the Year Baresi. A Team of the Year, Team of the Season, whatever they want to do. What they did to Nesta, they need a Baresi. Barnes himself, we have added Prime for the SBC as well. In terms of his Prime, I feel like he's not a bad card, but he's most definitely not going to be very meta relevant. If I'm looking at the base and the mid, I feel like them two have got to be fodder at this point. The Prime is most definitely just on the cusp of a C. We then have David Beckham. Again, in terms of the versions that we've got of him, all of them are okay. They're passing orientated, if anything. 92, 92, 95. Very nice passes of the ball. But it is most definitely that pace that really sticks with him. Personally, for me, if I'm thinking of actually where I could actually put him in a team, Cam could be an option, but I feel like the slowness, to be fair, Prime's got to be up one more, is this C. Whereas they did an absolute justice with this team of the year. He's going to be our first S tier. He is an incredible card, coming in at a pretty penny, but most definitely the pace of 11 plus is outstanding. We got a pace increase of 11. We managed to get 1 shooting, 1 on the passing. I think we got 3 dribbling, defending not too fussed, and then a 1 on the physical. But it's mainly that 11 pace that really takes this card to the next level. Very, very happy about that one. If then we're looking at Dennis, a lot of these bases now will predominantly be fodder. So if you see anybody in there, it just is what it is. And to be honest, in terms of in-game, I've personally never been a massive fan of Bergkamp. I reckon, again, he would be a brilliant, brilliant card for a new campaign, just because I feel like that pace would do him an absolute justice as well. I feel like on the ball he's good, but he's just not going to match up to some of the people. And to be honest, again, I'm thinking it's a hard one because I want to put him in fodder, but if I've got David Beckham there and Barnes and I'm giving them a little bit of leeway, I feel like he's got to be in there, in fact. The base and the mid are most definitely never going into a team. We then have Georgie Best. Again, 3 nice versions for him. We have the base, mid, and prime. The 91, 90, 93 pace, always good. The shooting's nice. I feel like definitely the prime is coming in at that S category. I'd probably say, in terms of the base and mid, they're very similar. And that's what we've seen with a lot of the Garinchas, the Jarzinhos, and obviously with Best himself. They're very similar for every version. There's not really a massive difference between them. So I think, if I'm thinking just on ability, I'm going to go like that, even though I do think the base most definitely could potentially be in that A. We're going to go in a straight line with it and see how we go with it. We then have Blanc. The base is just going straight in fodder. There's just no other way, unfortunately. Most definitely, in terms of what we're looking at now for the mid World Cup and obviously the prime, I feel like the mid has definitely got to be in that A at the very, very minimum. In terms of centre-back, would I say he's in the top 10? Because realistically, if I'm going to be putting people in S, I've got to do it sparingly. It's got to be the best of the best. And do I think he really outweighs a Team of the Year Vidic, a Maldini? Even Nesta has most definitely come up trumps. I think for now, we're going to stick him in the A, because I feel like he is a phenomenal centre-back. But I don't think he's top 10 in the game. So we'll leave him at A, and I'd still put that as a very, very good A in my opinion. We then have Butra. Again, 4 versions for this guy, and an incredible card. An easy pick up and play striker. The one person who I believe did get an upgrade on one of them weak foot skill moves. He's got a 4-star, 5-star in the World Cup, and a 3-star, 5-star on the Prime. So most definitely, the World Cup has got to be up there. I'd say base-wise, to be honest, all of them have gone up in pace, which is nice. I would say definitely we're looking at the B. If we're going 1 under the A, it would be very close, but he's definitely no, the pace increase. It's just the shooting, the pace. Dribbling's obviously a little bit better. He's still a good striker, but the 3-star skills is definitely worse than having them +1s. Especially a 3 to a 4 is a big, big difference. We'll stick him there. Even though he's an honourable B, I feel like he should kind of be an A, but I do think the skill moves has got to have that extra push, but I don't feel like he's an S sort of striker. I do think with the base, I probably would keep him there, to be honest. He's definitely not one that I'd be ecstatic over, but we definitely could get worse at this point. We then have Carfu, an incredible right back. Again, has all the versions in the world. We're going to go with these two at the S category, purely for the fact that they're both very similar. One was obviously a token with Vieira, and the other one is the prime that is packable at this point. I think personally you'd get away with the right back in the base or mid, to be honest. With what right backs we've used, I'm personally using a Phenoms Hakimi, very quick, but again, it still has very similar stats. I do think you'd get away with him 100%. We then have Sol Campbell, again, not a bad centre-back, to be honest. We've got base, mid, and prime for him. Does get lower in the pace, so it is an interesting one, but we do have the 90 defending and physical. The Shadow will take him up to 90 still, which is a very good centre-back. Personally, the mid most definitely coming in a little bit under. Would you get away with a base Campbell at this point? An 85 rated centre-back. To say that last probably 2 weeks ago, I was still using 84 Varane, and it was only since we actually got Prime Campbell, I thought, you know what, we'll give another centre-back a try. Nothing wrong with Varane, to be honest. So if Varane 84 gold can do it, I'd probably say you'd still get away with the base. We'll stick it like that. I feel like the defending capabilities of the Prime will keep him up there, and the pace of the base will do him a service. We then have Cannavaro, exceptional centre-back. Mid, to be honest, is going straight in that fodder. Never got on with the mid. It is all about the base Prime and now World Cup. I personally think, if I just about think, we've obviously got 82 pace. The World Cup's coming in a little bit less, but we've got the 93 defending, 84 physicals. It's very nice. Passing wise, he's never really been a passer. I'm going to go, Prime is going to go into the A, and I feel like we'll keep it there. Definitely the base is one of the cards that personally, I packed him 2 years in a row from last year and the year before, and he stayed in my team for quite some time. So just judging on that, and obviously this year, still got that pace ability, we'll keep him in the A. Ooh, big choice with Cantona next. Would the base get into it? I feel like the base most definitely is coming in clutch. The Prime is definitely S, so I think what we'll do, we'll go 2 A's with Cantona here, like that, and then we'll go with, obviously, the S being the Prime. I feel like that's justified. The base, actually, in terms of stats, is very, very good for an 88. The mid, again, loses a little bit of pace, but gains on the other stats. I still think he would definitely do really well this year, even at this point with a Cantona, and I'm pretty sure he is a, 5-star, 4-star, so he's got that ability. A little bit taller than everybody else, 6'2" in a forward role, but the Prime is where it's at. If then we're looking at Carfu, that is where we're missing somebody. He's got a, Alberto, he has got a Prime, hasn't he? Oh, he's there. That's very odd. Oh, okay, so it's changed the names. I was thinking then, I was like, I've definitely put him in. So we've got Carlos Alberto. The big thing this year with him personally is the fact that you can actually have all versions of a centre-back, which is just mesmerising, seeing as though the base is a centre-back, incredible to start the game. Then the right-back from the mid and the Prime is good, but I feel like you could definitely put him centre-back, and this year you most definitely can. The Prime, I'm definitely going up into here with Carfu. In terms of the mid, I'm going to put him in A, even though, again, I do think he's kind of on that cusp. He's almost an A+. Probably should have changed that and made the C kind of fodder as well, because realistically you could use all of them as fodder and then had an A and an A+, because I feel like there's a big jump from A to an S, because S is clear of anybody, whereas A sounds a little bit cheap. In fact, that's what we'll do. We'll change it out. We'll put all of the C's. Anybody that's going to be C now is going into fodder, and then what we'll do is we'll change this one into the A+, because then we have some sort of ability. Okay, then we need to move it up, and what we'll do is we'll just move a few of these up that most definitely still come in clutch. We'll go with a Prime as well. Butra, I'm going to go, to be fair, Carfu's both cards are incredible. Cannavaro's going to go up here, and then we'll go Cantona. Yeah, Cantona's no debate, to be honest, and there we go. So then we've got the A. To be honest, you know what? We've got to put Blanc up there. There's no question of that. That sounds about right. So I don't know if I've screwed this whole thing up by adding an extra. Just leave me alone. Roberto Carlos next. We've got a great left back. Honestly, he's always one to pack. I feel like now you'd be very gutted with the mid and the base. Even the World Cup, to some extent, I don't think he had a skill move or weak foot upgrade, but we will double check just in case. A 3-star, 2-star. He's got a 3-star, which again is very little upgrade. It's the 3 to the 4 we're looking for, or the 4 to the 5. A 2 to the 3 is not really going to give us too much difference. I feel like we'll go A plus so we can utilize that. And then, to be honest, the bottom two, they're going to have to be fodder. I wouldn't personally be happy with both of them, so nobody else should either. Then we've got Casillas, who again, I feel like we added Casillas in. So we've definitely got all versions of him. We can add them in, obviously. I will come back to it, but I feel like we've got him somewhere in this massive list. He might have been renamed into something else, but I could be wrong as well. Look out for the Spanish flag. Yeah, there is a lot of icons to go through. Strap yourselves in. And I can't find him. He should technically be under the same name, so we might have to just add him in post-edit. I'm not seeing him anywhere, but I definitely did him. And I think, yeah, we can't find him. So we're going to add him in. Are you tired of using players like this? I would much rather have teams more like this. Then I recommend going over to skycoach.gg for all of your coaching and coins needs. They are cheap, fast and reliable, but at the checkout make sure you are using code JT11 for a discount on your orders. Back to the video. But first we'll continue because I don't want this to break and it puts everybody back. So we've got the base, mid and obviously the World Cup. We do have a 92 that we will put in at the end, so stay tuned if there's any that are missed just in case we have. So in terms of Casillas, 87 is not bad, more than likely fodder. Same with the mid, and I feel like the World Cup version will go in B, and then obviously we'll look at the prime in a second. Check, easiest decision I've made. Personally, I don't like him. There's some people that love goalkeepers and they do really well. For me, I've just not been a fan of him. He's not worked, he never has worked, and that's just unfortunate. Ashley Cole, again, other than the Team of the Year version, I would not be happy with any of them. And I think the Team of the Year version is most definitely an A+. S is a little bit out of the question. I feel like there's better left backs out there, and I personally wouldn't rate him as high as that personally. I'd say Roberto Carlos and him are very similar in that version personally. We then have Crespo, again, more fodder if anything. I personally just don't think he's that much of a striker anymore. In terms of the World Cup and the Prime, the World Cup has had a 4-star, 5-star, which is always perfect. Then the Prime, so we can just look at them together. 89 pace, not bad. 90 shooting, again, not awful. I feel like it's just his in-game animation that just doesn't work for me. I'm pretty sure, yeah, he's an average body type, 6 foot. Does have a 4-star as the base, which is always nice. I'd probably go A for the Prime, and I think would go, or would we go, no, I'll go A for the World Cup and B for the Prime. Next up is Cruyff, and the easiest S's I've given to anybody. We'll whack them all in, just blur your eyes. I know people don't like it going up and down, but we'll just quickly get all of them in, because any version of Cruyff, I would 100% take the base, the mid, the Prime, the World Cup. Give me anything of Cruyff, because he's insane. A 5-star from the absolute beginning, and he will run an absolute mockery of teams. It is crazy. We then move on to Dalglish. Again, not a bad card. I feel like the base is not terrible even at this point. So we're going to go with B on him. We'll go B for the mid. I'd then be looking probably A for the World Cup version. There is no upgrade on the weak foot skill move. Still a 4-star, 5-star. And I'd probably say he's a close to an A+, but I'd say at least an A+ for the Prime. We then have Del P, base, mid, Prime. Mid, 100% fodder. We then look at the base. Still a nice card, to be honest. For an 87, the stats are very good. To say he's out from the very start of the game, not a bad card whatsoever. I'd probably be looking... The pace is a big factor, to be honest. We've got an extra, what, 4 pace? 6, 7, 8, yeah, 4 pace. Just double maths. Then obviously a bit more shooting on the Prime version. Bit more passing, dribbling's looking a little bit better. I'd say they're about the same, to be honest. I don't think there's any more skill move weak foot upgrade. I'd probably go at this point, I'd say an A for both of them. An A would be justified, I think. Anything more... Judging from what we're going to see in comparison to icons, I just couldn't do it. Desai, incredible version, most definitely. I would say, personally, the mid's probably coming in more to the A. The Prime is going to go into... We'll put him A+ for the second, and then we'll go with A+ for the base as well, just purely for the fact the pace defending works really well. Or, in fact, no, we'll go A, and I'll keep him like that, because again, very much like Blanc, he is sensational. Like, there's no two ways about it. In terms of centre-backs, it's a bit more tricky this year because Lucio's in my top 5. Lucio, Maldini, Virgil, especially Team of the Year. We then look at Vidic, Team of the Year icon. Really, really good reception for him. And to be honest, Nesta's in there. It's either Nesta or... I'd probably be looking at a Militao Team of the Year. They're my top 5, and I think if I'm not putting him in the top 5... then I don't think he'll be S in my personal category. Obviously, it depends on what you class as an S. That is the premium of premiums, especially for icons. So we'll go A+. We then have DDA. Again, nice versions throughout, to be honest. Did he have a skill move or weak foot? I want to say he was one of them. He's a 4-star, 4-star originally, and a 4-star, 5-star for obviously the World Cup. Adds a very good element to a card like this. Tall, strong, great build, and he's got an absolute rocket on his foot. To add the ability of a 5-star weak foot, that is absolutely crazy. So we will go an A+ for the World Cup. We'll go an A for the Prime. Don't know what I was thinking. Mid and base, I wouldn't be too unhappy with him. 150k and 180k. I'd say B. I think B would be a fair representation of them. They are very good strikers and still hold a good amount of shooting, even at the ratings of 87 and 89, but I wouldn't say they're any more than B personally. We then have Essien, the mid. Even though he's a nice card, I'm going to go in terms of fodder for this one. Base is definitely coming in at the A, and I'd say the A+ for the Prime. Easy and out. Eto, exceptional. Absolutely exceptional striker. Before we go any further, I need to see if there was a skill move or weak foot upgrade. A 4-star, 5-star, and a 4-star, 4-star. That, again, is incredible. Eto, easy striker in that S. We'll go with A+ for the Prime. We'll then also go A+ for the mid, and most definitely A+ for the base. This card is incredible every version. The pace is outstanding. Eto has always been known for it. I remember FIFA 09, FIFA 10 days, the Barca days of Eto is incredible. Was always the one to get, and this year is still the same. Next up is our man Eusebio. Again, very much like Cruyff, every version is got to be in that S. I think you'd be happy with any of him. He's far and few one of the best players that you can get in any sort of icon. So let's whack him up here and we'll kind of discuss a little bit more about him. Obviously, in terms of ranking of him, you'd obviously be looking at probably something along the lines of... I can move that one down and then move that one up. It would be, I'd say the least wanted is going to be that mid. Base, World Cup and Prime, they're going to be the one that you're going to go for. In terms of the mid, still exceptional. Like, don't get it wrong that he's the lowest version of obviously the Eusebio quadruple now, but still outstanding 100% of the time. Then we have Rio Ferdinand. This year a little bit more disappointing personally with him. I felt like he is a very good centre-back regardless. The mid most definitely is still coming in, I'd say more of a B category now, but definitely the base and the Prime hit different in last year. Last year, the year before, I don't know if it's because of icon swaps or whatever. It just didn't... It does feel like they've changed him completely. That being said, still a very good centre-back. I'd still probably consider him more A than anything, but last year I'd definitely have been kind of going for the S really for him. S almost definitely at the minimum an A+, whereas this year... I just don't think he's that good anymore. Garincha, another fantastic player throughout. I'm thinking very close to obviously what best was. So we will kind of emulate him in that best category. The Prime is going to be the best version. There is no weak foot or skill move upgrade between the two. I will say, just purely for the fact that they are so close in rating, there is very little between the two. They two have got to be in the same level. I can imagine if Best had that same card as well, he would be very similar. We'll then look at the mid into, again, the A+, and I think even the base still comes in that A+ now. It's got the pace, still has the 4-star, 5-star, still does an absolute mockery down that right mid. Gattuso this year... honestly, would be very disappointing with him this year. The base at the very, very start is okay, but it's only okay. Unfortunately, he is now going to come under there. And same with Gerrard, to be honest. Again, another card that would actually be really, really good for like a team of the season or something campaign-based. Because I feel like if you've got a bit more pace, bit more defending, you've got an outstanding box-to-box there. So it would be really interesting to see. With Hullet. Now, we know where Hullet's going. There's an S for definitely 3 of them. And then the base, even though, especially to start with, he is a very, very wanted card to start with, I feel like the base now, unfortunately, doesn't hold that weight. I'm going to put him in B for now. He's definitely not a fodder option just yet, because personally I'd rather keep him than get rid of an 86 as an 86 rated player. He definitely holds a bit more weight than that, and I'm interested, what actually is the price of that base? 430,000 coins still, so that's absolutely crackers. Would I say he's in that sort of... Yeah, he's got to be realistically. He's not necessarily holding too much. We'll see when we get more centre mids, because I feel like a lot of the centre mids now are most definitely more into the fodder section. Very much like Hadji. His base mid, 100% fodder. I'd say the prime's coming in okay, and I'd say the World Cup version with the extra weak foot on him is not a bad card. I'd go A at the absolute maximum, mainly because dribbling's quite good. Pace is okay, especially if you do whack a hunter on him. You end up with, what, 93 pace, I think it is. So again, not a bad card, but definitely not in the S and the A+ category. Henry, I was really hoping we'd get a Team of the Year for him. If there is Team of the Season icons, which I hope to God they do, imagine having 6 weeks of just non-stop Team of the Year, Team of the Season icons for their respective league. For instance, with Henry, could be La Liga, or the more favoured could be in the Prem, which would be outstanding if they wanted to. I feel like base... mid, if we put them up here a second, because I don't think any of them are fodder anymore. Most definitely, the prime is coming in the A+, 100% of the time. I think, if I'm going to go for them two, I feel like A is justifiable. The prime has had the premium upgrade. The balance, unfortunately, is still shocking, but everything else is good around him. So we'll go with that to start with. Then we have Luis Hernandez. Again, very much like most, the base version and the mid are just not in any question by any doubt. A 4-star, 3-star as a striker, unfortunately doesn't really cut it. I feel like the prime could be an okay addition to the team, but I do feel like it's the World Cup, even though 2 ratings lower for this one, which was unheard of, has got the 4-star, 4-star. Adds a little bit of value to the card. Very, very similar, as you can tell. You've lost 1 dribbling to gain a passing, or lost 1 of both, in fact, but then as well as the physical, but still get the pace and shooting bonus as well. That, for me, is an easy dub into that A, most definitely. We then have Herrero. Quite an easy one, personally. Straight into fodder. Very much like Baresi, needs an upgrade. Pace-wise, is just not good enough. Doesn't make it into the top 10 by any shout. So in terms of icon centre-backs, there's only a couple, to be honest, that really have a massive shout in a big, big contender of this list. We then have Jairzinho as his base, mid and prime. All 3 versions have definitely done exceptionally well. We will just put him up here so we can talk about him a little bit, because we did obviously get the mid as an SBC and a fan favourite of a lot of people. We've seen him countless times in teams, and he really is an easy right wing that was done for fodder purposes, or done to get rid of fodder purposes, obviously, and is made the team for quite a lot of people. Base-wise, definitely comes in quite nice. The prime, to be honest, does look better than Garrincha and Best on face value, especially being only 92 rated, and yet we've got, what, a 94, I think, on Best and Garrincha. We've got a 93 for Best, 94 for Garrincha, and yet Jairzinho at 92 looks better on paper. Obviously, we're going to go with the S for his 92 and an easily A+ for both of his base and mid. We then come into Kaka. Again, write Kaka down because I swear I had his prime. That might be the 2 ones that we're missing, to be honest. In terms of Kaka, I feel like now we're looking at the cam. It's very basic. There's so many cards like it. The base has got to be into that fodder. In terms of the mid, again, I feel like he sometimes looks very basic as a cam. Definitely has a good amount of ability on the ball. Plus, a Brazilian icon always adds that little bit of a flair. I don't know if I'm the only one there. But unfortunately, he is only going to be the B. And we'll do the prime at the end. In terms of Keane, again, not a massive fan. His prime has potential if he just had a little bit more upgrade. I'm going to go B for now, purely for the fact that I do think as a defensive centre mid, he's actually not bad ability-wise. Pace is the only thing that really lets him down, like a lot of these icons, to be honest. If you just added a bit more pace on Baresi, Bergkamp, Barnes, I suppose could do with a bit more of a different work, you will get a very good icon, which is obviously why you have top-tier icons and low-tier icons. We then have Closer. Again, even though I feel like you could give him an option, and if you're good enough, you could definitely use him, I would never be excited for a Closer, unfortunately. From day one to day end, he's never getting into the team. It just isn't happening. Same as Kluivert, to be honest. Again, very blocky, to be honest. I don't feel like he really has a place in the game. Maybe at the start you could argue, but definitely right now, it's not happening. We then have Coman, who as a CDM in every version is not bad. Centre-back wise is a little bit poor. I feel like the base and mid more than likely end up in the fodder tier now, but the prime has a bit of work. I think if I'm going CDM rather than the natural centre-back role, you definitely could get an A out of him. Pace-wise, is going to have a shadow on him, which obviously means that he can't get any more dribbling or any more physical. It is going to have to be that shadow for the pace, but definitely not a bad card whatsoever. We then have Lahm. Again, I swear Lahm had a World Cup version. Maybe not. I know I'm thinking of Matthias as well, but I could have sworn he had a World Cup version, but must have not. Base-wise, fodder, 100%. Mid, as a CDM, is not bad. Again, an all-round nice player. I do prefer him as CDM personally. His prime, again, would be more rated in that CDM role. Now we do have alternative positions. We can actually put the right back in CDM, and we don't have to wait for the moments version, which is never coming. So personally for me, I'd go at least an A for the CDM. Even though he has kind of got a big increase in pace, he still is a good CDM, not necessarily incredible. I feel like there could be a bit more work there in the future. Very much like Gerrard, Lampard, unfortunately, is another amongst the fodder. Same with Larson, to be honest. I feel like base and mid has most definitely gone in the game. Prime comes in alright. 90 pace, 85 dribbling, 89 shooting. I can't remember what his weak foot and skill moves are, but I'm pretty sure they were okay. 3-star, 4-star. I think at this point in the game, it's got to be B as a max. I think judging from the strikers we've kind of put in this category, it has to be. It absolutely has to be. Laudrup, I'm pretty sure he had a weak foot or upgrade. Could be wrong, but we will have a look. His 91's got a 4-star, 4-star, and we've got a 4-star, 4-star again. In terms of the upgrade, one more on the shooting, one more on pace. Passing's the same, dribbling's one better. So again, very, very identical cards there. Base, unfortunately not going to do it, and even mid, especially as a left wing, it's not happening. Cam-wise, you've got a bit more room. Would I judge him as a B or an A? Thinking of the cams we've got, Baggio, would probably prefer Baggio personally. Again, very different in play style, but you've always got to kind of think who else you're putting in there. In cams in the A, we have Hadji. It's weird though, because when you look at them in kind of order, and I'm thinking, would I prefer Hadji realistically? I don't know if I would. You know what? We'll go through this at the end, because I do think when I'm looking at them, once you put them in, you think, yeah, it's definitely an A. Then you think, okay, but Baggio's a B. So realistically, Hadji most definitely can't be the A, as they're very, very similar. And I probably wouldn't prefer one over the other. In terms of the other Laudrup, we're going to go into the B. And how many cards have we got left? Yikes, a lot of cards to go. So let's crack on with this. Lineker is up next with a whopping World Cup version, 3-star, 4-star. Yes, exactly the same. We knew where it was going to put him straight away. It's not happening. And we'll just keep going. We'll absolutely keep going. Littmanen, not worth mentioning, just isn't the one. Same with Bobby Moore, just as I kind of see him looking at me. We'll keep that one for later. Figo himself, nice card throughout. I feel like the base normally comes in better at the start, as you could kind of imagine. That is roughly where the progression of icons normally comes in, even though it's not always the case. He's still an okay cam at this point. I'd say the mid, the prime, and the World Cup definitely come in at a higher value than fodder. If we go ahead, whack all of these, let's put them up there for the moment. I know everybody's going to be saying that I'm scrolling far too much, but this tier list is absolutely mental. We might have to zoom out and kind of talk about them so we can kind of make them a bit smaller. In terms of Figo, though, I kind of want to put him in A+. I feel like A is good, but he's definitely on the better side. And I think my mouse has run out. Perfect. And now we're back. Yeah, we're going to go A+ for both of them. I feel like in terms of judging him... Whoa, that's a lot quicker than what we were used to. In terms of Jairzinho's base, mid, Figo's Prime and World Cup is definitely on that sort of category. Maybe not necessarily S. Let's zoom out a little bit so we can get a bit more room. Why did I not put it? Did I not put his mid up there as well? Mid is going up there as well. In terms of other versions, then we've got Makalele, incredible Team of the Year. Very, very nice. I think most Team of the Years, personally, been very, very happy with. They've just done a stand-up job on every single one. If then we look at the difference between the base, is 100% going in fodder. I think even the mid's got to go there as well. In terms of the Prime, where would I go with him? Because I feel like good pace, there we go. We can't, as I say, we can't even see the stats. You will have to zoom in really close. 80 pace, 88 defending physical. It's not bad. I'm going to go A, just because the Team of the Year icon is incredible. I feel like the Prime's coming under him, but not too far. Then we have Maldini, very, very easy option with every single one. As I do see Matthias there as well. Don't see the base Matthias, which is... Oh, no, I do. There he is. I've just moved him. Base Matthias, what we're going to do is we're going to put Maldini all the way to the top, and we'll do it and cut it. So we've added Maldini's free versions into the S. We've got Matthias, its free versions into the S, and then we also have his base that is most definitely going in A+. I do think the base is a very good card and an S once he comes out. Now we've kind of got into the stretch of things. I feel like he's definitely under the value compared to the Prime, the Mid, and now the World Cup. Now, purely for the fact that we've got a lot of cards to still get through, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to go up through the tiers. So we're going to put all the fodders in. We'll then talk about the fodders, just go over a few of them. We'll then go to the Bs, the As, the A+, so on and so forth. And we can go for each list there, because otherwise we're going to be scrolling for a long time. So we've added a fair few into, obviously, the fodder. We've started from Nedved. Personally, just not a big fan of the previous versions. The Prime's definitely coming in with the better stats overall, which you'd expect, but could do with another campaign. Nesta, all previous versions, bar from the Team of the Year, rubbish. Baresi, obviously Herrero vibes. Owen, to be honest, I might be being a little bit harsh with the Prime. I may change him, but I do think in terms of actual finishing product, I've just never been able to get him to work. His strength is just absolutely rubbish, and he just doesn't get in like some of the strikers, and I think that is personally my preference with him. Petit's left back is gone out of the question. All Pires versions. To be honest, Pires Prime could do with a B, but I'm thinking if I've got the Team of the Year icon, I would be upset with a Prime version of him, and I have actually got him, so definitely there. Pirlo, other than passing, doesn't really have too much other than his Team of the Year. Puyol is a little bit too slow nowadays. Raul is an argument. I do see a lot of people say Raul is okay, but we've saved his Prime, obviously, for that reason. Rijkaard, never been a fan. Maybe at the start of the game could do something, but now is just totally in the mud. Riquelme, we're going to skip over. Rivaldo, arguments could be made, but the base, again, I wouldn't be too happy. The weak foot is the real big problem with that card throughout. Same with Costa, very average cam now. Rush, no question. Hugo Sanchez, I was kind of half and half with him as fodder. I feel like the Mid, the World Cup, obviously the World Cup being an SBC, and, well, the Team of the Year, in fact, and the Prime do really good. But I think the base now is kind of coming into the point where I should have a better striker than that. Schmeichel, base version, it's fair enough. Scholes is very much like Lampard and Gerrard. Don't really see too much use with him. Very much like Xavi and Pirlo. All pace or orientated, really. Schweinsteiger's pace really holds him back with that mid. Alan Shearer just doesn't do anything on this game. Shevchenko is a little bit on the lower side. If we had, obviously, the lengthy element, Trezeguet would be fantastic. But since that's been taken away, so is his right to be in anybody's team. Van Basten, useless. Van Nistelrooy just doesn't work. Veron can play an okay game, but I think in terms of centre mids, we've had more than ample opportunity to get better at this point. Vidic, other than the team of the year, again, is not really worth it. Vieri can go straight in the bin. Ian Wright has a bit of pace, but again, I feel like Owen, even though technically he has more physical, doesn't show it up front. And Xabi Alonso, other than the team of the year, again, very similar. And finally, Xavi, very much like Pirlo and Scholes. Passing is all he's got. And now we've got the Bs from Petit, Rooney, Rivaldo. All of them, I feel like, with these versions are now the top cards, but they're base versions. Obviously, Rooney starting to come into the element. The mid, the prime are all very nice cards. Do think he could definitely do with the upgrade to take him possibly to the S level, but it would be an interesting one to see where he would go other than having 94 plus stats. I feel like that would be where Rooney would go into the S, because I feel like the prime has got good stats. Rivaldo, his mid has got to be in the B purely for the fact that he has got that 2-star weak foot. Prime Rui Costa, very average cam, but definitely a little bit better than the base and the mid. Schmeichel, very similar, bit better than the base, but not quite the prime. Seedorf has got the same sort of value in terms of what I'm thinking here. The prime is quite a nice card and very underrated that I've seen, but wouldn't go necessarily into the top category. Same with Suker. In game, actually, not bad at all. Pace-wise, does feel better, especially with that Hunter, and obviously getting the same pace difference, just 2 extra shooting, makes them very similar. With the base Schweinsteiger, we did start to see some pace with him. It was the mid where it dropped off, so I do think this card, especially being able to have that alternative position this year in the centre mid, does an absolute wonder for him. We see Zola's mid, probably my least favourite out of the 3 of them. His base was actually a really nice card to start with, especially being such low rated. Really, really good in game. Socrates, or Socrates, however you want to call it. Again, unfortunately, doesn't quite come in at a high rating with the base and mid, but definitely the prime is looking very good. Hugo Sanchez, as we said, started to get a bit better. Stoichkov comes into the fold now with obviously his base. Same with Vieira, Yashin, Zambrotta, mid, obviously coming in a little bit lower than the prime and obviously the World Cup plus the base, as they are all very exceptional cards. 2 Zanettis, 1 Van Persie, Torres, Muller. Muller could be argued as an A. I feel like now at this point No, I feel like Muller could be argued. Muller definitely could be. Now I've looked in a little bit more on the stats, I do think actually he could be in that A without question, really. Shevchenko, not a bad card, but again, not necessarily going to be too happy to get him as a striker in a prime icon pack. And Suker's final version, which is away from the other 2, is coming in there as well. Then we've filled up the A from Raul, because we put Muller in. Raul, nice card. Unfortunately does fall off the top of the tree now. I feel like A+ is definitely in for the premium sort of striker, and I don't think he personally meets the requirements there. Same with Nedved in terms of a left mid. Puyol, nice upgrade, obviously a bit more pace on this version. It's why he's gone up a little bit in that list, but I do think if we was looking at him as an 80 pace centre-back, I feel like that would have pushed him up that little bit more. Same with Schweinsteiger's World Cup and Prime, obviously the SBC for the World Cup, but still a 3-star, unfortunately. Could have done a really big upgrade for a 4-4 with him, or even got a 2 on the weak foot. I don't necessarily need the skills from him, but in terms of the box-to-box, it's definitely the ceiling for him. Seedorf's mid, same as what we said prior. Socrates, again, very good cam. Sometimes lacks that little bit of just an in-game ability. Some days I have really good times with him, and then others he's just absolutely in the midst of it. And if I'm coming up against a good player, he's not somebody I look to think he could pull it out of him and get me the goal, or at least get me the play that puts it forward. Shevchenko, nice upgrades on the weak foot skill moves and all of that. Same with Suker. Unfortunately doesn't necessarily tip into that top. Same with the mid Torres. Prime Torres definitely the better version. Same with Van der Sar. Obviously the base is coming as the lowest side of him, which I still think is a very good option. You could argue somewhat of an A+, but I think in terms of the difference between all of them, he is the lower out of all of them anyway. Same with Van Persie. Xavi's hit his ceiling in my opinion for this. Same with Zanetti and Zola. And Rivaldo, If he definitely had a bit more of a weak foot, you'd be arguing in that A plus 100%. But a 2-star weak foot, unfortunately, cannot go in that left wing as an A plus. From Bobby Moore then, we have got obviously the World Cup Bobby Moore. Big upgrade. This is a sensational centre-back. The biggest glow-up we saw to start with the World Cups, and obviously then we followed with the Team of the Years. So hopefully the next set of icons we get, we are very excited about, because we've got some darted around and they are very, very nice upgrades. But just in general, the extra pace, the dribbling, the defending, phenomenal centre-back. So he's 100% justified in this A+. Muller, I feel like some people do like him a lot more. I do like his Team of the Year. I feel like that card is absolute filth. You could argue the prime's there as well, but we're going to be sparing with the cards we put in the S. So I do believe the mid and obviously the prime are going to sit in this A+ as well. We've got Petite. Ceiling's definitely hit. Nice CDM, but he's not quite in the S category for me. Same with Pires and Pirlo. Both very good Team of the Years. Pires feels like almost like a brand new player. Definitely a taller winger, and you could argue you could put him at striker to some extent, but I do think he is better on the wing. I think the pace does really do an absolute justice for him, and Pirlo's just got a nice upgrade. The pace increase is exactly what he was looking for. Ronaldinho and R9, I feel like base mid, they're still phenomenal players and definitely would be very happy with either of them. Little bit biased as he is one of my favourite icons, but if I'm being genuine, I'd definitely be, well, anybody would be a lot happier with the Team of the Year or prime version of him. But I do think the base and mid at this point are very, very good, but they are not necessarily the top of the top if I was comparing them to some primes. R9, as we know, still phenomenal, but he's going to be the lesser of the other 3 versions. Rooney hits his ceiling here, personally. S-wise, like I said, he needs another upgrade. A 93, 94 Rooney, that is definitely an S Rooney. We then have Hugo Sanchez, has to be one lower than that Team of the Year, mainly for that skill move upgrade. Schmeichel hit his ceiling, same with Seedorf. Stoichkov, he's one that I'm thinking he could be an S. A phenomenal player, really, really good stats throughout on every version, and definitely an overlooked icon 100%. I remember in, I think it was either FIFA 19 or FIFA 20, we packed the mid, and I used him just naturally in the team. We've done reviews on him and kind of gone through him a little bit, but just have him in the team and just seeing after the 5 matches, after the 10 matches, what the contributions were like, a very, very solid player. But even though the World Cup was an SBC with an upgrade on the skill move, I don't think he's S, so I feel like it would go in the order of mid-prime World Cup. Torres, again like Rooney, very, very good striker, but he's going to take an extra version for me to really put him in that S. Same with Van Persie, needs to go the other way, needs to be up in the rating rather than down in the World Cup. Vieira, arguably an S, but personally I do think now when we've got 2 other versions, I would put him in the lower side of stuff compared to the centre mids that A were available in SBCs and also that will come very, very soon. Yashin's mid will stay there, and Zambrotta, all 3 versions, very, very nice indeed. Team of the Year Zanetti, good, and obviously Zidane, the bottom of the 3 that we've got, but definitely still a solid 5-star, 5-star you can get. And now the top of the top. You could probably see a theme, to be honest. We have got, obviously, Team of the Year Muller, incredible striker. If you've ever tried him in draft, outstanding. Very nice addition to this year, and I can't wait to see if we get any more from him. Whether we do, it would take him into the 96, 97s. It would be interesting to see how they finish off this year. Nesta with a huge upgrade, a very, very top sort of centre-back. Him and Vidic together, both of them had a massive glow-up. Bobby Moore was the kind of the tester almost for what we saw of an upgraded, of a card that other 3 versions, useless. Moore, Nesta and Vidic, base, mid, prime, useless. These 3, incredible. Moore comes in a little bit lower of them, but I do think Nesta and Vidic are in my top 5, at least top 5 to top 7 at a minimum. Pele, is Pele. And this is where I'm saying it's very obvious the best players on the game when you've got all of Pele, all of Puskás. You could argue even that Puskás, one of them could be lower down, but I do think with them, both of them, all of their cards, phenomenal cards. I'd be happy with any of them at any point. Same with R9. Even his base I'd be very happy with, but I do think the base definitely has a little bit less of a wow factor compared to the mid and the prime. When you get a base R9, it's incredible at the start, but then the jump from the feeling of the base to the mid is exponential. Like, genuinely, you will never see a difference of a reaction if you got a base now and a mid now. You're absolutely laughing. Obviously, Ronaldinho, one of the best left wings in the game, 4-star, 5-star, team of the year icons, almost extinct at 15 mil. It tells you what you need to know. We then have Hugo Sanchez, great upgrade for him, a good SBC if you manage to get him done very, very cheap. And I think he is one of the strikers that, especially Icon version, has had a massive glow up from his prime, base and mid. Van der Sar, my favourite keeper on the game, the team of the year. The price I couldn't believe at nearly 1.2 mil, which is crazy, but definitely well worth the investment in personal experience for my Van der Sar. Vieira, S tier, as we don't really need to go over. Xabi Alonso, great SBC. Again, another big glow up from one of these team of the years. We have Yashin, still a fantastic keeper. Comes in at a big price of 800k, but I do think the hat is worth it. And then finally, Zidane is Zidane. A 5-star masterpiece. We did obviously have the mid as an SBC. The World Cup and the Prime are obviously great additions, so I do think all three of them are star-studded in that S category. And that is going to be the biggest tier list we've done so far. I might try a different way of doing these if we try this again, because that was a lot of scrolling and a lot of different cards to put in. Maybe we try and do it on a Photoshop and try and move the cards naturally so they can be closer together, so we don't have this absolute mess of everything. But as a quick go down, we will slowly jar it down and then we'll stop at each section just so you can get a still shot, because I know a lot of people just skip to the end. But this is the A+, some phenomenal players. Like I say, with any of these, they are opinion based and they are going off one by one. So if maybe you do see a player that you think, oh, gone, so Essien's gone in there, but Vieira's gone there as well. It is just off the cuff, just looking at them. There may be some that I may have moved a different way. Like with Hadji, I do think you could go B with him, but I've gone with the A. We're going to stick with what I thought straight away, and we'll go with that. Let me know down below if there's any other players that you think in the lower tiers should be up. It is all opinion based. If your best player or your favourite player is not in there, then that is down to your opinion. This is personally from my experience of a lot of Icon reviews, a lot of Icon buy-in packs, throughout the whole years of FIFA. They very much stay the same. You'll probably look at this list and I will do a comparison for next year, and most of them at this point in the game will be exactly the same rating. So that's going to be the list. We'll go back up to the S's, and this is every single Icon tier list in FIFA 23. Take care. Peace.